So you guys come close. It's going to be an intimate meditation talk with me and Catherine right on top of each other. So I had this idea this morning, as I do for the vast majority of my meditation talks the day of, where because the internal challenge of the week the question of the week is your life and everything around you and your time and all that set up and organized in a way that empowers you? And the other side of that is it set up in a way that disempowers you? Like, is your life organized in a way that does not work and leaves you kind of sapped for energy and time and all that? So I thought, I haven't given a talk with Ms. Macy in forever, and she is an expert on this. Of all the people that you will ever met, she is the most organized, and she is a professional organizer in her other non-dojo life. So hello, sir, come on in. Yes, thank you for that. So the topic is going to be kind of largely up to Catherine. I told her the gist of what I wanted to talk about, but I didn't give a whole lot of direction. I just know that I want her to give some ideas, and I'll kind of piggyback off of it and maybe ask some questions, and we'll kind of go back and forth a little bit with stuff. So I know part of what we're going to talk about is some basic ideas and concepts and principles of organization. We're not just going to talk about like how to make your closet organized, but we might use some of those concepts and then take it more out into everyday life and our practice and all that. So start us off with something.
Well, the topic of tonight's class, because you guys might not have seen it, is Zen in the art of motorcycle
maintenance. Somebody's been reading lots of books.
Zen in the art of organizing. And in my business, I use an acronym that I use all the time to help my clients kind of understand the process of organizing. And I think that there are some aspects within that that lend to some principles within Zen and within our practice and how we apply martial arts in our lives. So the acronym is I CARE, which obviously, you want to care about your life. And
if the acronym was I don't care, that would be pretty bad.
It would be pretty bad.
A long one.
The first one is something that we talk about a lot, which is identify. And the I says
identify.
Yeah.
I'll translate for the people. Continue.
I can't understand New Zealand speak. Yeah. But this is identifying what it is that you want. Right. And we talk about this often in terms of our goals for our life and our goals for our martial arts practice and what it is that we want. And so I talk about it with my clients in terms of what they want in their lives from an organizing perspective.
So this is part of my question is, when you say identify, I assume partly what you mean is like literally identify the things, like it's a physical thing that you're identifying, or is that part of a later on part of the acronym?
It's a little bit part of later on.
Got it.
It can be that specific, but mostly what I do with the first part of this is understand what organizing means to somebody.
Great.
Because different people, an organized space is different for different people. Some people are minimalists. They don't want anything in their space at all.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, it's like the barer it is, the better it is. But some people have collections and they would feel really awful and like their soul was ripped away if you took away their collections.
Right.
So it's really finding what organized means for a person.
Yeah. And so in our practice, it's like different people have different goals for what they want to get out of practice. And whenever you have the goals that we set for the new year, for example, and you want to know what you want to accomplish with it. And I think that this is something that we should do very often, is just think about what it is that we want to get out of like the time and energy that we're about to spend. It has a tendency to feel a lot of times like we're just spinning our wheels and just like going, but not really getting anywhere because we haven't really chosen the direction to go in. So yeah, when we're organizing our time and our space and our energy and all of that, identify where you want to go. That sounds great. You want to talk more about that or move on to the next one?
We talk a little bit more about that in terms of practice, right? So because I see a lot of people here and some people come in all the time. They're here all the time. And some people come in just once or twice a week. And
those are bad people.
no,
I'm just
they're
kidding.
not. But it's like working out what works for you, right? Like, does a minimalist style work for you, or does a collector's style work for you? Does it work for you to come in every day?
Mhm.
Does it work for you to come in once a week? What works for you and what works for your practice?
Yeah,
And
and what's sustainable?
Yeah, what's
because a lot of
sustainable?
people think,
Exactly.
I got to be here every day. And maybe there was a time in your life when you could do that, but that time is past now. You've got other responsibilities. You have a job or something. You can't just come to the dojo every day. Most people are not like us, where our job is to be in the dojo. You have to do something else. Great. But you're absolutely right. There are people where it really works for them the best to come in once a week, especially if you're doing like a Tai Chi practice or meditation. And then you're practicing on your own the rest of the days. And that's a very important thing to recognize. Yeah, what is really going to work for you
Mhm.
in a longer term basis, not just what works right now, or what do you feel like you have to guilt yourself into doing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Now we can move on
To the
the C, which is the categorize. So this is the first part when I'm with my organizing clients, where I'm like starting to do stuff with them, right? And we're starting to like categorize the stuff that they have in their lives. Normally we're talking about stuff with my clients. Sometimes we're talking about time related things, but often it's with the stuff. And the basic categories we start to talk about are not like, oh, these are plates and these are cups and that sort of stuff. That's obvious, but it's more like, what do you want to keep? What do you want to let go of? What do you want to donate? What do you want to sell? What do you know? Those kinds of things. It's like it's a broader picture of what it is that we're looking at in terms of the categorizing and allowing things to, either be in your life or not be in your life anymore. And the letting go part of that is really critical for so many of my clients, because most of the time they call me when they've got too much stuff.
Yeah, I'm assuming most people don't call you like, I don't have enough stuff. Come organize my empty space. No, I mean, that is such a human thing, not just in our practice and our meditation, like, of course, on the level of thoughts, but also for sure with what we have around us. We just love to hold on to stuff. And I think that some of it is because it makes us feel safe, kind of like what you mentioned before. Like, we have our stuff and this is what I need to keep around me. And it's kept me alive thus far. So I'm going to hold on to it. And we do the same thing with our thoughts. We have a hard time letting go of thoughts because they've worked so far. They've kept us alive so far. With thoughts, it gets real tricky, because the more you have a thought, the harder it is to let go of it. It's kind of built that stronger connection. And yeah, I cannot even imagine what that must be like to, like, it is a fun challenge for me, like on an ethereal level, to talk about letting go of stuff and to try to see that progress in my life and in the students' lives. But then when you have the physical thing, it's funny, because it's like, it's very clearly there or not there. You have let go of it or you have not, and it's in your space and you can feel it there, maybe more obviously than a thought. But then it's also got to be really nice, because the physical letting go of a thing, when it just is no longer in your possession, I mean, that's very,
it can be very
finite
freeing.
and freeing, for sure.
It can be very freeing. Yeah. One of the interesting things about when people have been holding on to stuff is that often they have just not decided whether or not they want it in their lives or not. And I think that's true of thoughts too, sometimes, where you can like a random song pops in your head, and it's like, and then you're like, well, hang on, do I really want this in my head right now or not? And then you can choose, be in that gap, be in that moment, and then choose to be present to what's actually here around us right now. And that aspect often helps people too with the letting go of stuff. Like, in the present, do you need this? When do you love
right
it?
now.
Right now.
Yeah.
Do you love it? Do you need it? And that's
Great. That's what
yeah.
I was going to ask is like, what kind of tricks do you use to manipulate somebody? Now, what kind of like ways to think of letting go is helpful for somebody letting go of their physical stuff? And that's a great one. If
Yeah.
that's the only one, great. But yeah, what do I really want now and what do I not want now? It reminds me of what Shihan Dunn, one of my jujitsu teachers, said about jujitsu, which is like such a complex thing where you could be thinking about 1,000 things at any given time. But he said, a great question to always ask yourself is, what's bothering me now? Just like in this moment, what sticks out the most? And I'm sure some things will stick out as like, I definitely don't need this now. It's not bringing me any joy. It is just in my way. And then some things will be so obvious that you really want them and you really need them. I mean, you're not going to get rid of your toilet, but then there's like the gray area stuff in between, which is difficult to figure out. So
yeah, sure. It's super interesting. I often use people's faces to tell me what's actually going on inside. For them, because a lot of people have me help them with their closets, like you said, that I have no idea about fashion, so I'm not the right person to ask. I don't know any labels. I'm not that kind of person. But
Chanel, get rid of this trash.
I don't know. But it's like somebody can have a Chanel thing, but they actually don't like wearing it because it doesn't look good on them, or it feels uncomfortable, or it's too hot, or their sleeves are wrong length, or something. So they never actually wear it, even though they've got it in their closet. And they'll get this look on their face like you know, so
it's pained. It's like
pain.
You can tell they kind of want to get rid of it, but then they're fighting with themselves about that.
Right, because of all the thoughts of like how much it costs, and
yeah,
it looks it's a beautiful piece, it's good quality, or whatever.
Everyone else tells me that I should really have this thing.
Right, exactly. But if you go to the what's bothering me now, and you like, oh, I don't like this thing. It's like that's really obvious for somebody. So it's a really great tool out in all sorts of areas of life.
And that's interesting because if you get, if it's whatever thing you're attached to, if you're really kind of like fighting and feeling that resistance will just disappear as soon as you completely let go of it, whether it's a physical thing or not. And it might just be in the moment with the thought, in meditation, you recognize that you start to resist against thoughts, and your experience of meditation is resistance. And we just had a jujitsu class. You're trying to get something and your partner is really fighting against it, and you're just holding on to it and they're holding on to it. And if you just let go of that thing, the resistance disappears and your experience is very freeing and just nice. You can easily move on to something else. Great. Okay. Speaking of, let's move on to the next one.
A for assigning homes. So that's all about, that's really truly the Tetris part of organizing when you're talking about stuff. It's like, where do things fit, and where's the most logical place for them to be so that you can use it easily. I'm very much about function in this kind of way, shape and form. So I
had Miss Macy help me organize my kitchen at home, and it blew my mind. I had been walking like all the way over here to get something that I need for the same task that then I had to walk all the way over to the other side of the kitchen to get something. And she's like, well, when you're here and you take the dishes out of the dishwasher, you just put them like here. Obviously, and it's just like, oh, now I can just like do this to do things instead of running laps in the kitchen. It's not a giant kitchen, but you get the idea. Continue.
Yeah. But that's the kind of things that what we're looking for. It's like, so put your keys, have a home for your keys beside the door when you're going to be going out and grabbing them and leaving and coming back. That's where they belong.
So you don't have to wonder if you have Alzheimer's every time it's time to leave the house and find your keys. No, that's
right. If my keys are not where I'm supposed to leave them, I have no idea where they are. It's a real problem.
That's great. Yeah, assigning homes.
Yeah.
This is that for some reason when you said that, it made me think of this idea of like the physical spaces of our practice, meditation and physical practice, whether you're doing Tai Chi or forms or whatever. And obviously you have the physical space of the dojo, but then you have your other physical spaces. And I was reading something recently. I can't remember what the article was specifically about, but it was, oh, I remember what it was. It was like you're having a hard time training your kids to like not need their iPads. And so you literally just have this room is where the iPad lives, and these other rooms, no iPads live there. So if you want to use it, you got to be in there. And then whenever we're doing something else, we don't do it. And I say all the time, you should take your practice into everyday life and have it seep into as many places as possible. But some people, it only lives in the dojo. And so they've organized their life in a very limiting way so that the only time they get to do meditation, Tai Chi, whatever, is only in this physical space. This is a tiny space for that. You want to do that in as many places as possible. So if you have, a spot at home where your meditation cushion sits, and every time you walk by it, it's so easy to just be like, sit, and I can meditate like that. And this is hugely important for efficiency and, setting habits and being able to stick with them, as we want to make it as easy and efficient as possible. So go on.
I also wanted to talk about that too in terms of your calendar as well.
Mm-hmm.
So making sure that you assign times for your practice or for whatever it is that you want to be having in your life. Make sure that you block some times for those things to happen.
A temporal home for the things that you want to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So in practice, it could be like Monday and Wednesday, I go to the dojo. That is the home in my calendar for that thing. Mm-hmm. Or Tuesday morning, I know that I'm meditating at this time, whatever it is.
Whatever it is. And if you're one of those people that is a freelancer and has a crazy schedule, then you know that when I have this time block available, this is what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. So you can make if-then rules so that it works for you, even if you have a changing schedule and that kind of thing. So yeah, it's
no excuses.
That's right. And then the R is for reach. And in organizing, it makes a lot of sense because I talk to my clients about what do you need at hand? What are you using all the time? What are the things that you want to be able to grab every day? What are the things that you're using, on a holiday events and things like that? They go up in the hard to reach places down low or up high, right in the back of the closet. And the things that you're using every day need to be at hand. So I don't know how that works into Zen.
It's easier to chin out your partner's wrist than it is to chin out their ankle. That's her practice. I'm sure there's some great way of doing it, but it is kind of about it's almost like the path of least resistance. It's mm-hmm. like when we are in a physical practice, it's like kind of going with the flow of what your partner is giving you rather than reaching really far, trying to force something.
Sure.
But I think that it also is kind of like this is the physical part of the last thing too, about where are we placing our meditation cushion, like how are we also kind of putting things right in front of us. Like I've told a lot of you this before. If you've never seen the movie Signs, I liked it. There's this is not a spoiler, but there is this little girl in Signs who just keeps glasses of water all over the house. And she just has this thing where she just drinks a little bit of the glass and then leaves it there. And she's got glasses of water all over the place. That's me, but I drink the water and then I fill it up and I put it back in my face. So I have 2 or 3 places where there's always a glass of water to make sure that I drink enough water. And if I had to go and fill up a glass of water every time I felt like I should really drink some water right now, I would never drink any water. And that is, when we're forming habits of any kind, I think that's great. You can find ways to when are you driving to the dojo versus when are you doing something else that is kind of around here? And you can kind of build things into that. I know this is kind of going back into the last part of what you're talking about too, but just to make it so it's not just a physically, how can I get you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It could also be, we were talking a little bit about the habits, what are the things that you have in your mind that you want to be easily accessible? Like,
Yeah.
what do you want to think about all the time?
Yeah. Habitual thoughts.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like, do you want to have affirmations be part of your daily practice? You know, is that something that you can have top of mind? Is it easy to reach for you in your mind? That kind of thing.
Yeah. And most of us, without lots of work, we have lots of junk easily accessible and readily available that we do not want. And I heard this, one of the simplest but most profound things I've ever heard was a monk. I was listening to this talk and he described enlightenment as breaking the habit of ego identification. And we're constantly kind of reinforcing the ego when we're thinking of things in those terms of our small self and, like, the things that we are resisting and all of that. But if you are building the habit of just going back to the breath, being in the present moment, identifying as a higher self, with meditation, with prayer, with affirmations, all of that, then it makes that kind of thought more present and readily available than even automatic.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're walking by that glass of water and it just makes more sense to take a sip than it does to walk past it.
Yeah, for
Great.
sure. And then the last E is for ease of maintenance. Like, how easy is it to keep up? How easy is it to do? How easy is it to have your practice be how you want it in your life? What do you need to change to make it easier? What do you need to take away or add or whatever to have it be easy?
So in organizing physical spaces, this is just like, what is it? How does it feel easiest? Or
yeah, and it's also things like it ties in with the reach thing. Like, if you're using something every day, you don't want it to be behind like 3 layers of things that you've got to take it out and put it back in. Like, you're making it difficult for yourself. Don't do that.
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. We talk about this from time to time, this idea of Wu Wei, or striving without striving, effortless efforts. And this is not exactly what you're talking about. It's not just ease. It is the experience is kind of that of ease, but your output is a lot. So you're in class and you're trying to get a throw to work and you're really pouring yourself into it. You are putting lots of effort into it, but when it doesn't work, inevitably is the case very often, you don't get upset about that. You're not attached to it having to work. That's where most of the loss of ease comes from in our experience of life, is when we were attached to something happening a certain way and it doesn't happen that way and we are stuck. We weren't able to let it go and move on. So effortless effort is like you're just pouring yourself into it without being attached to the result, without needing it to go a certain way. Because then the ease comes in because I just try again without getting stuck, without having to, psych myself up to try again. The natural thing that flows from that is to just get up and do it again.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get bogged down or weighed down by, failures. And I think that's a hugely important thing in our meditation practice too. Because what is meditation if not a rapid succession of dismal failure, of just trying to let go of a thought and focus on the breath, and then the thought comes back in, and then we get stuck on it, and then we resist the thought, we resist the whole experience of meditation, the whole experience of being in the present, and just being able to let that go and be in the present is like something that I have worked kind of hard on, but I'm sure many people need way more work than I did, of just letting go of the idea of this meditation having to be perfect, or this class, this experience in this moment having to be perfect. It is perfect. It's just up for us to interpret it as such. And when we have a thought in meditation, it's perfect that thought was there. It's there to help us grow. It's there to help us learn, and it's there to help us move on, to move beyond. And then you let it go, rather than getting attached to it, rather than fighting against it. So I think that finding our kind of sense of ease in practice, physical and internal, is absolutely huge. If it always feels like we're fighting something or someone, first of all, we're usually just fighting ourselves. And you can just let go of that experience by letting go of it needing to be an exact way. Kind of full circle back to this idea of just letting go and not being attached to it. Yeah.
And one more thing around that too, if I may.
Please.
With the thinking about how something should be, if there's too much to that, then it becomes hard again. It becomes difficult. Like you were talking about when you're in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, there's like a million different things that you could be thinking of, but what's bothering me right now? So what is the one thing that you can take away from right now that will make this easy right here, right now? And allow that to be your goal rather than having the whole thing be your goal.
Yeah.
So you might have, when you're sitting and meditating,
wait, I got this.
Focusing
You
on
walk
my
in,
breath.
you walk into your closet and you see this whole thing is a mess, and I just give up immediately, right? Like when you sit down to meditate and you got 1,000 thoughts and you're just like, this is a mess, I give up. And people sit down and they're like, I can't sit down. I just get up and give up like immediately. But you know, we're not trying to get enlightened in one shot in meditation. You're trying to sit for this breath.
That's right.
And I assume when you're cleaning out the closet, you don't just, tear everything out at the same time. And maybe sometimes you do, but you probably just do one thing at a time.
Kondo, don't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, just do one thing at a time.
One thing at a time.
And in meditation, this is one breath, it's one thought you're letting go of. And the next one comes, okay, I didn't get that one. And then just let go of the next one. Yeah. One moment at a time, one thing. Great.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like that's enough.
I think
So great. Thank you, man. So yeah, as you sit tonight, just take it like that, one moment, one breath at a time. And it doesn't matter what happened in the last one. And it doesn't matter what you think is going to happen in the next one. It's this moment, this breath. And if a thought comes up, it's perfect. It's there to help you just learn to let go and organize that mind. Sit comfortably. Pull, close eyes, spine straight, eyes upturned, relax, watch the breath. Let go of all thoughts, worries, and cares. Be here now.